So, hi and welcome. Today I have a really cool presentation for you guys. It's really simple, straightforward, easygoing, so please relax, enjoy, and do not touch your phone because I'm going to get really angry. Now, my name is Juan, and in a normal day from 9 to 5, they call me a software engineer big data at Lobu, it's a dating app in Germany, and there I spend my days detecting and blocking spammers in the platform. However, today I would like to remove this title, and I want you guys to call me a data curious guy. What's that? Well, because this presentation, which is titled Why Does My Girlfriend Dislike My Music? Oh God. It's actually a fun project I did on my free time. This is something I did on those days where the internet is down, or you go to Starbucks, or you have no idea what to watch on Netflix. Also, just to make sure and just to be really clear, I would like to say that I am not affiliated in any way with Spotify, except by the fact that I pay them 10 euros per month. Now, story time. Story time. So, one day I was having a classic, typical Spotify and chill section with my girlfriend when suddenly she looked at me, she put her arm in my shoulder, and she tells me, and I quote, "Your music take is interesting." Sure, yeah. Your playlist has a lot of variety, maybe. Instrumentalness, oh Jesus, really? And some of them are boring, whoa. You what, girl? So I was thinking that night, I went to bed really frustrated, like, oh my God, is it really boring? And I was like, I need to find a way to prove it that she's wrong because, relationships are made of discussions. And I was like, maybe I could use the power of data and music to try to figure it out if she's right or wrong. And this, my friends, is what I have for today. This is the agenda, and next I'm going to give a overview of the project, the data, and the audio features that I use for this experiment. Then I'll present to you my attempt to prove that my girlfriend is wrong. In here, I'll be answering the question, how instrumental is my music? How varied it is, or how boring is it? Then I'll move on to supervised learning. And here, my plan was to build a model able to predict if a song belongs to my playlist or her playlist. And then I'll move on to the other side of machine learning, which is unsupervised learning. And here my goal was to cluster my music and trying to find similarities within each of the cluster. And lastly, I'll present some visualization because it's always nice to take a look at the data and then the happy ending. Now, project and data overview. You guys know how there's a lot of resources and blog posts on the internet saying Python is better, R is better, blah, blah, blah. Both of them, see? Both of them, pretty. Python and R, PR. Now, on the Python side, I use a package called Spotify, which is the one that is kind of a wrapper around the Spotify API. Then I use scikit-learn. Maybe you guys know what is it. And then hypertools to present the low-dimensional representation of my dataset. And on the R side, I use a lot of base R to answer the 3 questions I presented before. I use a package called cluster to cluster the data, and ggplot2 to show the really nice plots that you guys are going to see. And of course, the Spotify API, which is the powerhouse of this. Now, my dataset is really small. It is made of 1,074 songs, and which 573, like half and half, are from my playlist and from her playlist. Now, these are our saved songs. I'm not sure if you guys know, but on Spotify, next to each song, there is some plus sign. And when you click on that, this goes to a really big list called My Songs. And these are our songs from that list. Now, which are the audio features? What are the columns of the data set? So Spotify API has something called the audio features, which I have no idea how it works. I'm just going to trust them. I'm just going to think like, this is Spotify, they're really smart, and this is really correct. So, and these features, they represent characteristic of the song. And starting from the first one, it is instrumentalness. And instrumentalness measures the presence of instrument in the song. Then we have liveness, and liveness is the likelihood that the song was recorded in a live setting. Then we have speechiness, which represent the presence of words or speech in the songs. Then we have valence, which is how positive the song is or how negative the song is. Then we have danceability, which represent the amount of dance in the music. Then we have energy, which is like how energetic, how dynamic the song is. And then acousticness, which is the presence of acoustic stuff. Now, 3 questions. Let's start. First, once again, how instrumental is my playlist, how varied is it, and how boring it is. So now, the first one, how instrumental is my music? So for doing this, I simply calculated the mean value of each of the data features from my playlist and hers. And as you can see here right now, first, on the first position, it's really instrumental. Boom, she wins. And then on the last position, speechiness, meaning that I have a lot of songs that are really like la 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 instrument and less blah words. But on her side, it's quite the opposite. First, you have danceability. So, I mean, I also have danceability somewhere here because my Latin blood, but she has danceability, and then she has instrumental, and it's the last one, see? See, so it's really like the opposite. And here we can see the main difference. So here I am subtracting her values from my values, and we can see that on blue, that really tall blue bar is represent the instrumentalness of my song, the difference from hers. And on the other side is the balance. What this means? This means that my songs are indeed more instrumental, however, her songs are more positive. So maybe we could imply that my songs are maybe more negative. I have no idea. But yeah, my playlist is indeed really instrumental. Next, how varied is my playlist? So for doing this, I simply calculated the standard deviation of the features. Why? Because we know that the standard deviation is a measure of dispersity, and I wanted to know how far away from the mean my values are. So what does this mean? My intuition was that if they are really far from the mean, that means that the songs are really all over the place. For example, here, once again, instrumentalness is the highest standard deviation, meaning that I have a lot of songs who are either really instrumental or not so instrumental. But however, I want you guys to take a look at the mean and the song. This is the important thing here. The mean in my case is 0.24, and the song is 1.7. However, on her side, it's less. The mean is 0.17, and the song is 1.21. So meaning that according to the standard deviation, if we sum all of them, mine are greater, meaning that I have more dispersity on my playlist, meaning that mine is more varied. Last one, how boring is my playlist? And boring, yeah. And boring is something is really subjective of what is boring. What is boring for me might be really fun for you, or really shitty for you, or really cool for you. So I was thinking like, okay, I need to come up with something really nice and cool. So I decide like, okay, let's imagine that one day I go to this party. What would be nice, what would be really awesome to listen on that party? And I thought, well, I want really loud music because, loud, dun, 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 and tempo, with a nice movement. And then energy, like energetic. Danceability, once again, because the Latin blood in me. And I decided to take all these values, and by the way, loudness and tempo are some audio features I didn't mention before, but they are here. And I just decided to, okay, Juan, loudness plus tempo plus energy times 100 plus danceability times 100. Why the 100? Because these values, energy and danceability, are from 0 to 1, and the others are like infinite value, like 1, 2, 3, whatever. And I want to kind of normalize those values. So this is my fancy equation for boringness. However, there's something quite off here, and I realized after I finish. According to this, the highest the value, the less the boring song is. But I'm calling this my boringness score. So the option would be to actually have this as a fraction, but I realized after I finished, and I was like, whatever, I don't want to redo anything. So sorry for that, that's the sad face. So remember, the higher the value, the less boring the song is, and the lower the value, the more boring the song is. But results, yeah, perfect. Once again, let's take a look at the blue. And we can see on the blue side, we have this, cool, this really long, oh geez, man, this long tail on the blue side, this tail to the left, meaning that most of the values of my distribution, they fall on the lower end. So my values are really low, so my songs are more boring. On the pink side, we have this really big peak, almost at the center of the plot, meaning that her value have a really high boringness score, meaning that, remember, her songs are less boring than mine. And to make sure this is right, I calculate the mean of the scores, and we can see that on her side is like around 250 something, and mine is like 197 or so on. So meaning that in essence, my playlist is more boring, so she won all of them. But now, is this song hers or mine? A supervised learning approach. Like I mentioned before, my goal here was to actually make one system, one model, able to predict if the song belongs to my playlist or hers. And for doing this, I use logistic regression because it works, it's fast, easy to interpret, and so on. And the cool thing is here that what I would like to mention is how I train this. It was a really simple training, but I just want to mention it. So first I use cross-validation, and then I use grid search. Now, I'm sure that a lot of you know what is cross-validation, which I won't explain, but for those of you who do not know what is grid search, it is simply a meta algorithm that is used for finding the best hyperparameters by fitting the model, yes, I have it here, several times using combinations of them. Sounds confusing, but let's take a look here. On this map, this dictionary that we see the first, called parameters, are all the possible parameters that I would like to try to fit on my model to find the best option. On the first one, the key called loss is the loss function. In this case, it's logistic, because logistic regression. Then the next one is penalty, and in this case, I select to use elasticness, which is a mix of the L1 lasso regularization or L2 ridge regularization. But then we have all the alphas, and the alphas is my alpha value for the penalty, and here I have some values like 1,000, 110, and so on and so on. And then the number of iteration. So after I have all my possible parameters, I'm going to use my function grid search CV, grid search cross validation, and using the SGD classifier, which is a linear model train using stochastic gradient descent. Then I'm going to send all my parameters. I'm going to train my system, and this is going to return the best model. And I have the notes here, and that is the alpha of 0.001 and number of iteration of 100. But now the results, bing, 82%. I feel it's quite nice. 82 is a nice number. That means that 8 out of 10 cases, the model was able to predict if the song is hers or mine. And I decided to test it on some songs that I didn't have on my playlist. And on my site, I used one called A Very Beginning by Mass Effect as a video game, and the answer was me. And from here, I used one called Love on the Brain by Rihanna. I have no idea how the song sounds, but I'm just going to assume that she liked it. And according to Mr. Logistic Regression, she would like it. Now, discovering similarities, a unsupervised learning approach. And like I mentioned before, here my goal was to cluster all my data and try to find similarities within the clusters. And I divide this part into 3 different sections. First, the number of clusters, how many clusters I have to use, what is the best number of clusters. Then the cluster analysis, and here I cluster my data using K-mediates is the model I use. And then how good is the clustering? And for this part, what I did, I delved inside my data set using a lot of manual labor, and I just took a look at all the songs to try to find if they are indeed similar. But then I used more or less the same other features. However, I decided to remove energy because I found out there was a high correlation between energy and danceability, I think. And then I removed balance because I wanted to keep it simple and let's just drop one of them. Boom, balance, goodbye. Now, number of cluster, how? So for finding out the best number of cluster, I use 2 different techniques. One of them is called the silhouette coefficient and the gap statistic. Now, I will, since I'm going to be mentioning the silhouette a couple of times, I'll give you guys a really brief overview of what it is. And according to my notes, the silhouette value is a measure of how similar an object is to its own cluster, this is one cohesion, compared to the other cluster, separation. In other words, these values are from -1 until 1. So the closest the point is to the center, the most similar is to the other one, the highest is going to be the score. On the other hand, if the value is kind of really separate from the center of the cluster, then it's going to be -1. And on theory, this means that this cluster would be better in another cluster. Sorry, this data point would be better in another cluster. And these are the results. So for doing this, I just fit my model using different values of k, in this case range from 2 until 10, and then I calculate the average silhouette of each one of the models, and this is how it looks like. And here, according to the silhouette, the best value is 4, with a value of around 0.48 or 50. 4, keep that in mind. Then, with the gap, if we look at the elbow of the plot, then we can see that the value is also around 3 or 5. So my last result, the number I decided to use was 5. Why? Because even though the silhouette was lower in 5, and one of my goals was to actually study my cluster. Well, I need cluster, and 4 is a really ugly number, so I just decided to go to 5 because it's a really nice number that everyone likes. Because also like high 5, you know. But okay, now I have my K, let's cluster, boom, magic, numbers, tables. These are the result of my cluster. Don't worry, I'm going to explain what this means. And here, each row, it represents one of the cluster, and each column is a piece of information about them. And the first one is the size, and here we can see that the smaller cluster is the third one with 60 zones, and the bigger one is cluster 4 with 143. Now the second and third column, they are the dissimilarity. What is the dissimilarity? Well, the dissimilarity is the distance between a data point and the center of the cluster, or the midpoint. If we take a look at this really nice plot that I have here, we can see like one of the blue points and the red one, the distance between, that's the dissimilarity. Then we have the diameter, and diameter is the maximal dissimilarity between 2 points of the same cluster, which it would be this blue that is here on the left and this blue here on the right, because they are the most separate. Then we have separation, and separation is the minimal dissimilarity between one data point and another one of another cluster. In this case would be that blue that is there alone and one of the greens, maybe the greens that is on the top left corner. But now, according to these numbers, cluster 3 for me is the most interesting one, because it is the one that the highest dissimilarity, meaning that all the points are kind of spread around. It is the one with the highest diameter, meaning that it's kind of really big cluster, and the separation, meaning that it's really alone on its own corner. We're going to see this later. Then, here is the silhouette of each one of the data points. Each row here represents a data point, and they are grouped by cluster. And the first thing we see is the average silhouette, which is 0.4, which is good because, like I mentioned before, the values are from -1 until 1. So a value of 0.4 is quite okay-ish. And if we take a look on the right side, is the silhouette per cluster. And we have one cluster that is really, really bad with 0.27, but we have one that is really, really cool with 0.55. So what is the next step? I have this, okay, but I want to see my cluster. So I decided to select 2 of them to actually go inside and see the data. And I select the third one because this was the one with the most interesting values in the table, and the fourth one because it is the one with the greatest silhouette value. And this is the result. The next slide is going to be kind of ugly. It's going to be some of my songs that I have in this cluster. You can laugh, or you can make fun, or yeah, whatever. So here we go. Cluster 4. This is what we have in cluster 4. So first we have 38 songs, Jesus, 38 of The Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King, the complete recording, you know, of course, the complete one, album. Followed by this, I have Interstellar, the deluxe edition, 12 songs. Then I have 10 songs from a video game called Shadow of Light. I never played the game, but the music is quite cool. And then we have, again, Interstellar, but this is the non-deluxe edition, meaning that I have some duplicated here, because the deluxe one has some songs that I don't have in the normal one. And the rest is Mad Max, Final Fantasy, Mass Effect, Deadmau5, video games, and more video games. However, there are other songs that I didn't include in the list, but they include Kanye West, The Martian, Mr. Robot, Muse, The Hobbit, and so on. So, can you guys find any similarity here? Can you guys find any kind of pattern? No, Juan? Okay, no. So, the summary is that I have a lot of instrumental music in this cluster, and some of them, they are from video games and from movies. But now, let's go to the third cluster. And here is quite different than the other. It shows more variety. For example, the first 2 albums, they are called the acoustic albums, and they are by Above and Beyond. And they are an electronic group of musicians. And the acoustic albums, they are acoustic compilation of their songs. So here there's a lot of acousticness. Then we have more Kanye West, and this album is not that the really street mode Kanye West. It's more like really cool and easygoing. Then we have more video games, and more Interstellar, and more Lord of the Rings, and whatever. But okay, I was here, and there's a lot of variety, and I thought, what if I cluster this even further to see if I could find some kind of correlation, some kind of similarity in the cluster. So, like a good inception, I just cluster this once again. And this is the silhouette. And in this case, it looks a little bit more like worse than the previous one because here the average is 0.29. And I have one cluster that is really bad, which 0.10, and another one that is really good with 0.47. But now let's take a look at some of the content of this cluster. And the first one, it's really a mess. It has 6 songs from an acoustic album, rap song, instrumental music, and some music that are pop, electronic, and Spanish, and even some jazz, because I'm a classy and sophisticated guy. Then the second cluster, we have a lot of acoustic, then we have Lord of the Ring, Bastion, and Transistor. But now, 2 details. These 2 albums, Bastion and Transistor, they are by the same guy, so they follow the same style, and I was really happy to see them in the same cluster. And this song from Lord of the Ring, I believe it's from the extended edition. I'm not sure if you guys have watched it, but there is one scene when they are singing in the bar after they win everything. And it's really happy. They're singing, standing on the table. So that song is that one that is here. Meaning that in this cluster, there is a lot of happy and song with a lot of instruments, such as guitars and so on. But just trust me, because I know how this song sounds like. And then the other one, the third one is really it's kind of messy, just rap and electronic, a really nice combination. And then cluster 4 is the rest of the songs from music, Interstellar and Lord of the Rings. So in summary, how good is the clustering? Well, I think my opinion is that the cluster, the model was able to capture the essence of the clustering, of the music, sorry. And we saw that there is one cluster that has a lot of instrumental music, such as video game and music. There is one that has a lot of easy listening music, like acoustic songs. And there is one, I didn't talk about it, but it has a lot of rap and electronic music, and the other 2 are pure garbage. So don't even think about them. But now the last part, visualizing the data, because it's always nice to see the data. And here I've been talking about separation, and dissimilarity, and mumbo jumbo, and blah, blah. But I want to see this one. Okay, guys, yeah. So for doing this, I had to use 2 different techniques to lower the dimensionality of my data set because, we are not superhumans and we cannot see in 5 dimensions, at least I don't. So I used 2 really well-known techniques, principal component analysis and T-distributed stochastic neighbor embedding, TSNE. And this is how it looks like. Really pretty, huh? But I would like you guys to focus on the third cluster, the one that I mentioned before that was kind of crazy. And we can see that there is one point there in the middle, up there, next to the second cluster. And there is one really small here with all the red point. And I mentioned before that this cluster was the one with the greatest diameter and the greatest dissimilarity. And we can see it here because there is one point there, there, and there. So the cluster is really well spread around, meaning that those songs would be nice, would be better in some of the other cluster. And if we see the same data set, but this time using PCA, we can also observe the same behavior. In this case, we can see all those points from the third cluster that are right in the middle of the plot. And there's even one that is kind of there to the left. So that this cluster is really, 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 really spread all around. And this is the PCA for the second clustering I did, and it doesn't look that interesting, except for the fact that on the third cluster, the one that had rap and electronic music, I have 5 points that are there and 4 points down. And I have no idea what they are because I didn't actually went to see the songs, but I'm just going to assume that on top I have the electronic one, and on the bottom I have the rap song, because in an ideal world, this would be happening. So, conclusion of everything. Music and data is an amazing combination, happy face. And my music is really boring, it's really varied and instrumental. Interstellar soundtrack is really amazing, that's my opinion. And my music and my girlfriends is so different that even machine learning can know it. See, this is really smart, guy, we're living in the future. And K-Medioid was even able to see the similarities. It's amazing life, right? And then, of course, the data looks pretty. And that's it. Thanks for your time. I hope you guys really enjoyed the presentation. And yeah, whatever, thank you. I think I have like 6 minutes for question or something. Which?
Okay. Anybody questions?
Oh Jesus, sorry. Hi. Please take it easy. It's late.
Yeah, how could I not ask? Is your playlist public and your girlfriend's playlist public as well?
Actually, mine it is. Yeah. Silly me. I don't have the link, but hers is not. I just decided to hire because she was like, no. Actually, I wrote her like an hour ago. Can you please say something so I can put the screenshot? But she was like, no. Yeah. She like my experiment, but she was like, dude, don't go way too far. Yeah.
If you could post your playlist somewhere, that would be cool.
Perfect. Yeah. So
And,
then.
Yep.
Okay, I'll post it in one of these links somewhere. Yeah. But I'll let you know.
Was she somehow helpful with the project? Did she
Not
like it or
really,
not?
Yeah,
or?
she was calling me nerd idiot, you know. Because okay, so it was I had to explain this to her, like, hey baby, you know, do you remember when you told me that my music? Oh yeah, why? And then I was like, okay, I need your data. You need my what? I need your data. How can you get my data? And I was okay. I need your credential of Spotify. But baby, it's for research, so you know it's. At the end, okay, for research, yeah. At the end, it worked, but I had to kind of explain to her because she has no idea what this means. So, sorry, baby.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. Mister.
So obviously, one can imagine that a dissimilarity or similarity of playlists is like,
Yeah.
proper relationship advice. This is just going on a limb here, but could you make maybe a dating service based on data sets like this? Did you just say, hey, upload your Spotify playlist and we're going to find people that...
I mean, yeah, of course. I never thought about that. And considering the fact that I work in a dating company, you know. Yeah. But I think it could work. I mean, like, just maybe we can find like 2 playlists of 2 different users, and maybe we could even improve these techniques. Because to be honest, I did this kind of, not in a rush, you know, but I was just trying to do something for fun. But I'm guessing we could use different clustering techniques, for example, like grid-based clustering or density-based clustering, or we don't even would have to touch clustering. But I like clustering, so I will try with clustering, of course. So I think that would be a really, really nice approach. I mean, and as you guys saw, there is indeed some similarities found between the cluster. So maybe if I mix 2 of them, 3 different playlists, I'm sure something cool would come out.
Sounds like a good idea. Thanks.
Perfect, yeah.
Hi, I have like one idea.
Tell me.
Yeah. So maybe before you've done your analysis and you did the pretty clustering, you should maybe look for an anomalies, because what you describe pretty much in clustering are some of the observations that are really far. So maybe if you did some anomaly searching and you said, okay, these songs are like weird, I would say, yeah. So you could maybe just find really good clusters just by having the songs like sorted out.
I mean, that's a really nice idea. For example, here I mentioned that there's a Kanye West song. And even so this song is really instrumental, it doesn't really sound so similar as the others. So there are indeed some anomalies. I would really like to do that. So maybe I could just pick up all the songs that are classified as a anomaly, and maybe there's some similarity between them, you know? That would be really cool. So that's thanks for the idea.
And the second idea is, as you have pretty much a thing that says if it suits your playlist, right? So it suits your type of music. You could use it to have new songs and just have some manual classification. So let's say you have a new song, and then you say, okay, I like this one, I don't like this one. So first of all, you get new music, so it's profit. And secondly, you can improve the model, so it's profit. So, you know, science and, yeah.
That's a really nice one. I mean, both of them were really nice, but that one was really cool. So thanks for your tips.
Thank you. So any other questions? Okay.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you all.